2020 was a decent year for shmups and all, but 2021 was an insane beast. We didn't even get to play all of the games that saw release this year. It was a veritable bullet bonanza, and through the highs and lows we saw, heard, and played some incredible stuff. Narrowing things down to find our number one pick this year was hard to do, but we think we've got a good list. You may also notice that there are no arcade archives represented in this video at all. The truth is, there were so many shooters this year from arcade archives alone that we actually needed to make 2 lists. Until then though, let's dive into the top 10 shmups for 2021. With so many great releases, what could possibly come out on top? It's time to find out.
Get ready!
Though we never ended up actually reviewing it, Qute Tiger is a game that we've wanted to hit up for quite some time, as evidenced by our acquisition of the Famicom, Genesis, and PC Engine versions of the game. Well, it looks like we didn't need those after all, thanks to the newest M2 Shot Triggers release, Qute Tiger Heli on PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. It may only have 2 games at its core, excluding the packed-in DLC for Get Star, but what's here is actually pretty extensive, collecting a huge amount of arcade and consumer versions of the game, including Western versions of both Tiger Heli and Qute Tiger, known over here as Twin Cobra. There's a mode for everyone. Whether playing for nostalgia or a fresh new take on a classic, or even as a brand new player, Qute Tiger Heli has it all. The thing that puts this collection over the top for us is the inclusion of robust custom options, something we rarely mess with in other titles. The key to the custom mode is the ability to adjust the player's helicopter speed. It changes the dynamic in both Tiger Heli and Qute Tiger in ways that make them way more fun to play. In the originals, my biggest sticking point was easily the slow plodding speed of the player's craft, but that is 100% not an issue in the custom mode. It all comes together to form one of the best, most comprehensive classic shooting experiences we've had this year. Qute Tiger Heli roars into the number 10 spot. "17 years is a long time between installments of a long-running series, especially when the previous entry was thought to be the last. Still, against all odds, Granzella, made up of former IREM staffers, came through with R-Type Final 2. Featuring branching stage sets, over 100 ships to unlock, and all sorts of awesome customizability options, R-Type Final 2 definitely offers players a good amount of game to play. However, it wasn't without its issues, particularly on console. Using the Unreal Engine made things a little dicey on PlayStation, Xbox, and especially the Switch, and many were quick to point out the many shortcomings from the visuals to the sounds, particularly in Stage 3. It was also incomplete at the time of our review, something that has been greatly expanded upon since, which is appreciated. Still, we wish it could have been all present right from the start. With the PlayStation 4 version in mind, we still enjoyed it, but we have to stress, the best way to play this one is on PC, which is the version that made the cut in this list. Its load times, visuals, and frame rates blew past every other version we played, which lands it in the number 9 spot. Qute makes a return with top 10 honors with another addition to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC's shooting game roster with Ginga Force's B-side, Natsuki Chronicles. With an alternate viewpoint to the events of Ginga Force, a whole new vantage point, and the same great customizable ship options as was found in its predecessor, Natsuki Chronicles was obviously going to be a good time. Though not as good as Ginga Force before due to various confusing UI elements such as the problematic bullet trajectory markers, Natsuki Chronicles is far from even being a mediocre game. Of course, its robust arcade mode, something that Ginga Force lacked, was a hugely welcome addition. Add to that great visuals and a kicking soundtrack, and Natsuki Chronicles is a winner. It rounds out the Qute trilogy nicely, and its inherent quality earns it the number 8 spot.
Top-10.
2021 was clearly the year for a great many neo-retro resurgences, from the original Game Boy to the Genesis to the Famicom and so much more. More than anyone though, it seems that First Press Games is leading the charge in great ways. Karugamo's Blazing Rangers could be the best true-to-form Famicom release we've seen since the end of the Famicom's life. Utilizing the same limitations and specifications as early Famicom games, Blazing Rangers behaves just like an original 8-bit Nintendo game should, featuring fast-paced firefighting action for one player or two, fun risk-reward in its scoring system, a great sound set, and decent visuals for the kind of game it is. Blazing Rangers is easily the best game to make its way to the Famicom and NES in recent memory. It even has multiple endings, giving it a decent amount of replayability. Blazing Rangers blazes its way into the number 7 spot. Depending who you ask, it could be said that the Mega Drive offered a more robust shooting experience than the PC Engine. I'm not one of those people, but there are a number of games on the Mega Drive that the PC Engine never saw. One such game was NCS Masaya's Advanced Buster Hawk Glaylancer, a notably expensive title in the aftermarket, whether it be from Masaya or the later release from Columbus Circle. Thankfully, modern consoles also saw a release of Glaylancer from Radalaika Games, complete with modern touches like save states, twin-stick controls, and most importantly, a full English localization. It turns out Glaylancer is a killer game that honestly we want to get for our actual Mega Drive even more now. In the meantime though, we can get our fix on the go via the Nintendo Switch, which is fine for us. Glaylancer drops in at number 6. Cotton's 2021 resurgence is nothing short of amazing. Almost the entire pantheon of the Cotton series has seen release this year. Some old, some new, some great, others not so hot, but the one that kicked it all off is the best one we've played so far. Cotton Reboot takes the first game of the series and adds great modern touches, not the least of which is an extensive, overhauled scoring system that not only makes things more engaging but also competitive thanks to the added worldwide leaderboards. A pair of caravan stages ups the competitive replay even more, and the included X68K version allows players to better experience the series' origin, all with a control scheme that works far better than what we saw on the PC Engine Super CD-ROM. It's easily the best Cotton game of the year, and it sweeps in at number 5. To be fair, we just reviewed Darius Extra in January 2022, but it was released in 2021 and we're not missing out like we did with the Lesta collection. The Genesis version of Darius is easily our favorite by a wide margin. Not only is it more playable than the original arcade version and the PC Engine's Darius Plus and Super Darius, it's also much more accessible, with various version, difficulty, and flexible fire rate options. It also takes a page from Super Darius by featuring a restored roster of all 26 bosses with the option to play against the arcade version's scaled-back boss set. Add to that a number of boss rush modes as well as refinements to the solid but control and sound-lagged Genesis mini version, and you get what is easily the best way to play OG Darius to date. The Genesis and Mega Drive Mini may have had it first, but the new Genesis and Mega Drive physical releases get rid of all of the input and sound delays that really hurt the overall playability of the game, which is a huge plus. And of course, the added extra version ties it all together. It's just great, and Darius Extra version hooks into the number 4 spot. Somewhere along the line in 2020, we were fortunate enough to play through an early build of Only by Midnight's Curved Space, an arena-based shooting game that took great visuals, 3D arenas, and a roguelike structure and smashed them all together to make a game that really resonated with us. Featuring a branching, non-linear plot, sweet weapons, multiple loops, and all kinds of intense spider-busting gameplay, Curved Space in its final form is every bit as engaging as the pre-release version, though it tends to crash in advanced areas on PlayStation 4 and Switch, something we've unfortunately run into every time we've played it on console. The PC version is as solid as it comes. We knew early on that it was a great contender for this list, and while it drifted a little lower than we thought it might, it still manages to take the number 3 spot. The surprise release of Livewire's Mushihime-sama on Switch in June 2021 was a really big deal. But even bigger still was the first ever localized console release of Espgaluda 2 just a few months later. Featuring a ridiculous 7 modes of play, each with unique mechanics and scoring hooks, there's a mode here for everyone from novices to experts. Its myriad of range modes offers neat twists to the gameplay, while the Black Label and Novice modes should appeal to players of each respective skill level extreme. Though it's more complicated in terms of its gameplay and scoring than anything else Cave has developed, or so it seems, it's so engaging that nothing else comes close. And though nothing else Cave has done could top Ketsui at this point, Espgaluda 2 comes super close. Mushi and Dodonpachi DFK are both amazing titles in their own right, but they've also been released in other places, most notably on Steam. Espgaluda 2 though, that's different. Not since Xbox 360 have we seen a version released on a home console. And while the novice modes don't really do a good job of training the player for the harder difficulties, they're still a hell of a lot of fun. And that's why Espgaluda 2 blasts its way into the number 2 spot. Keeping the planet's rivers clean and healthy is critical to maintaining the environment we all kind of need to live. We can all do our part, really, though in the case of Tadpole Tales, it's all up to a small lone tadpole to get the job done in this adorable clean-em-up. It's not a long game, and its mechanics are simple, but it's also exactly $0 and easily the most wholesome shooting experience of 2021. I've had dreams of mysterious computer games running on impossible classic computer hardware with mind-bending screen ratios for decades. The visuals are simple, often monochrome browns and made up of dots and dashes, but they are easily the most fun I've had while asleep. Nectarware's Kestrel instantly evoked almost exactly the same aesthetic with flat-colored negative space and white sprites. There are no outlines to anything, and its general abstraction finally brought the kind of games I've played many times in my dreams into waking life. Or as close to it as I can recall. It's a chill-ass game too, well worth a look for anyone searching for something completely different to play. If you're not already diabetic, Floofy's Adventure will bring you right to the edge of it. For those of you who are, there's a good chance you may need an extra shot of insulin. Cosmic Boop has gone above and beyond to make Floofy's Adventure the single most adorable shooting game ever made, or so it seems. Though its soundtrack is more somber than its visuals would imply, and though the gameplay is a little rough due to obtuse and frustrating card game segments required for progression, items, and more, there's no denying its visuals are nearly barf-worthy with how cute they are. And you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like 2020 before it, the physical space has been totally littered with limited edition after limited edition throughout the year last year. It was going to take something truly special to stand apart from the rest of the great special editions we saw from the likes of Strictly Limited, NIS America, and First Press Games. Leave it to limited run games to deliver what has to be the most extensive collector's edition we've seen to date. The Blaster Master Zero 1 and 2 limited edition was the unboxing that never ended, with 2 complete Switch titles, each with their own retro-inspired boxes, replica NES cartridges, both of which we actually dunked PCBs of the original Blaster Master into, and even a pair of metal models of the Sophia 3 and Sophia Gaia tanks from the games. We can't wait for the third game to arrive to complete this set, nor can we contain our excitement for the similar box for Sol Cresta. We actually don't know if this limited edition will ever be topped. Following the excellent collector's edition for Blaster Master Zero 1 and 2, but before their actual reviews, it felt prudent to play the game that started it all in preparation for the trilogy that awaited us. Blaster Master on the NES was a game that I loved playing but never saw the end of. It was a bit too hard for my 10-year-old self, but no match for me at level 39. With a bit of guidance from our great livestream audience, I was able to finally defeat my retro gaming white whale, and while its controls suffered terribly at a key point of the game, it was not impossible to overcome and remains the best retro game we featured on the channel last year. It may seem like a shooter, and if you think of it creatively, it kind of is, but timing is the name of the game in Goodnight, a dodge-em-up and self-described rage puzzle from Team Goodnight and Doublethink Games. Especially on the harder difficulties, this game is going to kill you over and over and over again until just the right rhythm can be found to avoid the constant barrage of bullets, and some salty taunts are going to be thrown at you when it happens. But we can't deny it's an excellent aesthetic and one we're sure to play again. With a dance mat, what up? I made a game this year. Well, kind of. I did a bunch of the sound effects in the soundtrack. And that game is Shieldmade MX from HitP Studio. Taking inspiration from Area 88, also known as UN Squadron, Ikaruga, and many others, Shieldmade MX tasks the player with actually ramming into enemy shots to engage a bullet-eating shield. It can be maintained with enemy kills, and absorbed bullets will power up the player's ship. Complete with a cavalcade of game types including beginner, advanced, endless, and special modes. Not to mention online leaderboards for each, there's something here for everyone regardless of skill level. Shieldmade MX is a game I'm proud to be a part of. Unfortunately, that means I can't give it a review. But you can catch us playing it from time to time on our live streams, and it seems to be getting some decent press in other places. Look, 2020 was nuts. And 2021 was nuts too. But one game kind of escaped both years and we feel it needs its due. The M2 Shot Trigger's Alesta collection brings together a great selection of 8-bit Sega shooting games, including the original Mark III Alesta and the Game Gear's GG Alesta 1 and 2. Add to that their Western counterparts and the highly acclaimed and expensive, previously PAL exclusive Power Strike 2, and you've already got a winner. But the real showstopper is the amazing GG Alesta 3, developed in spec to actually play on an original Game Gear and released in this collection as the centerpiece of an already excellent package. Released too late in 2020 for us to get and feature in the previous Top 10, and with mail issues raising their head in 2021, we only got to play it way later than we hoped. And yes, we still need to get a full review put together. It's coming. If it had made a list, the Alesta collection definitely would have broke the top 5. At the very least though, this is definitely one Shot Trigger's release you don't want to miss. For all that was great in 2021 shooting, there was also a number of games that went nearly the opposite direction. Cotton made some great reappearances, but also stumbled with Panorama Cotton and the woefully lagged out Saturn tributes, which are better now, but not as good as they could have been. But the real letdown has to be the confusingly titled Genesis for the original Game Boy. Developed by 7FH and published physically by Incubate, its packaging and product quality are undeniably incredible, even featuring score saves with onboard flash memory. Neat. It's just too bad then that the game itself was a complete snorefest with a blasé soundtrack to match. We know the Game Boy is absolutely capable of way more, and this was demonstrated decades ago. In the end, it was a pretty big letdown. But you know what never let us down? Our number one pick. Admittedly, we were apprehensive about Star Hunter DX on the outset. Space Moth was a brutally hard game, and we braced for another rough ride. It didn't take long to discover how much more balanced the game ended up being, though. Sharing a great deal in common with Escalada 2 with regards to its core gameplay and scoring mechanics, we felt right at home, despite the shift from a Tate vertical orientation to a widescreen horizontal one. It's no wonder that both games made the top 2 this year, but what puts Star Hunter DX ahead of Escalada 2 is the way that it trains the player. Only one character is selectable on the outset, with the easier and harder to use ones only opening up with repeat play. Its lesser difficulties do a good job of gearing players up for the harder ones. The controls here are just as sharp as the best cave games. Players also have the ability to build up their bomber stock, allowing for more chances to get through tricky spots more frequently. And all of this doesn't even factor in the killer 80s cartoon aesthetic. It all comes together to form what we feel is the best shmup to see released this year. Star Hunter DX cruises into the number 1 spot. And that does it for the top 10 shooting games of 2021. What was your favorite shooting game this year? Let us know in the comments below. 2022 is already gearing up to be just as good as last year. Who knows what excellence we'll find along the way. Until then, we'll see you all in the next episode.